for listening to this week's episode of Trusted TED Talks podcast. I'm your host, Abigail.Sanders, and I'm a senior software consultant at Maxwell Bond and a co-host at Trusted Tech Talks. This week, I'm joined by Hasret Topalovic, a senior software developer at Top Cashback, to discuss, does having a degree make a better software developer? So, first of all, afternoon, Hasret, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Abigail. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you as well. All good. But thanks for coming on the show this week. I was keen to get this podcast set up, as I know we put that poll out last week around, does having a degree make a better software developer in the market? And we did have quite a bit of response to that. So I was keen to get a call set up and talk about your background and so on. But from your side, could you talk us through your background? How did you get into software development?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a bit of almost like a hybrid, of the degree / self-taught kind of thing. So I did a computer science at Manchester Met, but I didn't actually enjoy it in a weird way. Like, I went for the degree and I'm not sure if it was, lack of maturity or whatever on my part, but I just couldn't really get into it. So after graduation, the last thing on my mind was going into development, and actually doing it professionally, just because of how little I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So the first job I actually got was for an insurance company working on documents.
Okay.
So I ended up, I think I was there for about 3.5 years. And over those 3.5 years, I'd sort of gone from just, messing with like Word documents to actually programming like the quote programs and, stuff around the Word documents there. So I got like a bit of exposure, over the 3.5 years, so almost like more every year. And the more I was doing, the more I sort of enjoyed it. And it was around, at the end of that, obviously, I realized like, I think I want to do it now, so that time away from it after uni definitely got like the passion kind of thing going again. So at the age of about 24, 25, I went back and I started applying to graduate roles. So I ended up getting my first job there. And because of the gap, obviously the 3.5 years and the sort of coding I was doing in my first job, none of it was relevant to my first sort of full stack role. So a lot of the first few months of that job were like learning stuff on the job, in my own time, putting a lot of work in, trying to get stuff down. Because obviously, as developers know, like in a full stack role, you've got so many different things to sort of worry about and learn. So I've got I've got the degree, but I almost feel like I'm more on the self-taught side of things because of that time away and stuff. And I feel like personally for me, having that time away was like massive, because if I would have gone into it straight after uni, not enjoying it, I would have been doing it just because kind of thing. And I feel like development, if you're doing it and you're not sort of fully into it and you're not invested, I feel like you'll struggle to sort of push on, and learn more. So for me, that time away gave me that sort of perspective and that chance to realize I want to do it. So when I actually came around to start my sort of development career, I knew it was what I wanted. So when I was doing it, I was putting all the effort in, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say and ask, if you could have gone back, would have you done it differently?
Yeah, personally for me, I wouldn't. I feel like with development, because it can be so complex and there's so much to learn early in your career. If you're not invested and you don't want to do it, I feel like you may struggle. I feel like in sort of the whole software industry, I don't think there's such a thing as treading water and sort of maintaining a level. I feel like you're either growing and learning things and moving forward, or you're sort of being left behind and you're getting sort of held back just because of how quickly everything moves. How many moving parts there are. So yeah, for me, I think it was definitely the right way to do it. And I think if it happened a different way, I don't think I'd be the same developer I am, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that makes complete sense. I know coming straight out of university and so on, sometimes it can be very hard to determine what you want in a career and so on. So having that time of realization as well. I can imagine you putting 100% in after that as well. But following from that then, what routes into software development do you think are the best out there?
I feel like this is one of the important questions, for this like overarching topic that we're on, because my answer, honestly, is like I don't think there is an answer. As we mentioned earlier, like that my sort of case worked for me, but people are different, right? Some people prefer the uni route and enjoyed it a lot, right? And then went straight into development from there. So obviously for them, that's perfect. Other people, I think, would work better with like the apprentice route, where they get exposure straight away to the professional life. They've got feedback from like current professionals who have been doing it for a few years maybe, and they've got mentoring, they've got that work life. But and then on top of that, the self-taught, I feel like is a completely different branch, and some people do better with that, right? Because they can do it on their own time. There's no external pressure, no external deadlines. So yeah, so for all that considered, I don't think any route is best, right? I feel like the best thing about development is how different everyone is, right? You can have a team full of people from all backgrounds, different experiences, who will look at the same problem and solve it in different ways, right? So yeah, I feel like there is no best or right answer. I feel like every person's different, and different people will get different positives and negatives out of different things. I know people who would struggle with the self-taught aspect of it because they sort of work better under pressure, and having external guidelines, having sort of tasks and stuff set for you. So yeah, I feel like there isn't an answer. I've worked with quite a few excellent developers over the years, and they come from, again, all different backgrounds. So we've got uni ones, self-taught, apprentices, and there wasn't really anything around that made them who they are. But what I noticed was the things they were better at and strongest at were like their soft skills, and how good they were talking to other people. Obviously, they were really good technically as well, but I don't think any of that came from uni or how they started. I feel like you get that as you move through your career.
Okay, and with that, following from the soft skills, what would you consider the most important skills are that make a good developer?
So yeah, also I mentioned like we all know, obviously, the technical skills, like it's what you get paid for, right? At the end of the day, you've got to be able to write code and do every part of your job on that level. But again, mentioning like some of the greatest developers I've worked with before, it was those soft skills around like communication and teamwork. Being able to sort of relay information to maybe people who aren't as technical. Being able to take a step back from where you are and look at it from someone else's point of view. Some of the other big ones are stuff like talking to people who maybe aren't as senior or aren't as experienced. But every developer like listening will know that you've had a junior or someone come to you with an idea that you didn't think of before, right? So I think everyone at every level has value in their ideas. And I think in the past I've worked with a few developers who've maybe had like egos and stuff, who haven't been able to listen to other people, and who preferred a good idea as their idea, So I feel like the personality and the personable side of development is underrated. I feel like a good developer, senior, mid, or whatever level, is a good developer because they can also help the team. The team, at the end of the day, right, we work in teams. We work for sprint goals or to release features. The team goal is more important than any individual developer, right? So yeah, it sounds like a really it sounds like it's being simplified, but yeah, I feel like the technical skills everyone has, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be in a job. Mm-hmm. But the soft skills I feel like are rarer among developers, and it's just a common theme I realized I sort of noticed over my career is the developers who I respected the most, who affected my career the most, were the ones who had those soft skills, right? Communication and everything I mentioned there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yes. Okay, and with that then, from your perspective, do you think from a degree side of things, will that continue being a deciding factor in the years to come?
Personally, I don't think so. So I've been developing for around 6 years now, and I've noticed it a little bit in that time of how it sort of changed and gone down, with less roles requiring degrees. And I think that's going to continue over the next few years, partly because of, some of the things I've talked about here where I don't think it matters, it doesn't make a good developer. But on the other side of it, I think there's a lot to be said about why companies do it, right? And I think personally, it's a bit of a shortcut, because if a developer's gone to uni, you can sort of almost guess or estimate what they have been taught, what they've gone through. Whereas if you're going through backgrounds that are less common, like self-taught, it's up to that developer, right? So I personally look at it as a shortcut for companies because they can, cut out a portion of applicants straight away and then just focus on what they've got. Because you'll know yourself, like in the market currently, companies have got a lot to fight over, haven't they? So you've got developers, they've got like timelines, right? You don't want to have a 3-stage interview because that another company might have a 1-stage interview and you lose a good candidate, right? So I feel like companies have got pressure because of timelines, because of tech tests, I think is another big problem. And yeah, I feel like, so with tests, for example, companies, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming companies because they do have it hard. Because if you think about it, they've got what 1, 2, 3 hours if they're lucky to sort of decide if a developer is who they want to hire. And the question for them is, how do you do that, right? Because you've got to obviously know that they've got the skills for it. And I think tech tests, I don't know if anyone's got it right. I've had, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 interviews in my career, and everyone seems to do it a little bit differently. And I feel like that tells you a lot about tech tests. Because so you've got obviously the route where you give devs a tech test to work on before the interview, but that can take a lot of time. So yeah, I personally think, going back to the question, I personally think that the degree will sort of be phased out almost, as companies sort of, I don't know, maybe realize that it doesn't actually matter. And maybe if the market if the market eases, because obviously it's a very developer sort of friendly market at the minute, right? The salaries are going through the roof. Companies the demand isn't really meeting the supply. So I feel like over time, if that evens out, companies will have more time to sort of interview and talk to people. I feel like the degree thing will sort of peter out. Yeah.
Yes, in the years to come. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do think it's still a few years away. Yeah.
With that from your side, then, who would you say would be more hireable if you were a hiring manager, for example, someone with 2 or 3 years industry experience with no degree, or someone with a degree and an internship?
Okay. So for me, I think I always lean towards experience. I think obviously we've spoken about apprenticeships, degrees, and self-taught as like an entry point. As I said, I feel like all three are valid. However, I would say for any entry route or entry point into the industry, the work experience is where you gain the majority of your skill set. You can come in obviously knowing, I don't know, .NET, whatever frameworks. You can technically be a solid developer, but if you've not worked in a professional environment, there's a lot more, to consider. There's different companies have different procedures and like bits of other software, they use to sort of support development, so stuff like, I don't know, Jira or Trello, you've got Git, you've got pipelines to worry about. But then on top of that, you've also got the processes, stuff like code reviews. I remember joining my first company that did code reviews and finding it a very like weird thing, right? Because you've got people who are literally telling you it's wrong or it's not good enough, right? So, and I don't feel like these are things you get at uni or at any of those other places. So, and that's why I always lean towards work experience, because day in, day out, you're dealing with people, right? You've got deadlines to worry about, like I said, procedures and processes to follow. But then on top of that, with it being a workplace, you also have stuff popping out of nowhere, right? Like at uni, you've got, I don't know, an assignment, whatever, right? And they're all set throughout the year. But at work, you might be working on something for 3 or 4 days. And on the 5th day, something out of nowhere pops up, right? Whether it's a bug or an error or, you've got that unpredictability about it, which I don't think anything other than work experience prepares you for it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would always go with experience. I'd even even below like 2 or 3 years, I'd go 1 year experience. I think I'd take over someone who's got no experience, regardless of how they started.
Yeah, okay. Yes, with that note, it's really, really interesting to get your insight as well within that area. I know, especially in the market, how it is at the moment, there's so many different routes of getting into software development, whether that is through like coding boot camps or just doing personal projects on GitHub and so on. But no, it's really, really good to get your insight. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Hasret. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Trusted TED Talk podcast with me, Abigail Sanders, and Hasret Topalovic at Top Cashback. If you enjoyed listening to this discussion, make sure that you follow our Trusted TED Talks on LinkedIn and Spotify, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you never miss another episode again. Additionally, if you have any further ideas for future episodes or have a follow-up question on this topic, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or email.